Hi, it's time for this week's Pastors Forum. I'm Byron Tyler. Glad you could join us. Today is the first time I've ever, I don't know if ever, but it seems like maybe in a long time, I've had a guest appear on this program as a result of social media, Facebook. I'm excited about it. Normally, I try to keep up with our program, and we work ahead on this show and have several weeks usually of programs recorded with pastors in the area. It just slipped up on me. I realized that, oh my goodness, I don't have a pastor for this coming Sunday. So I always pray about it and ask God to direct, and He always does. I made a little sign on Facebook, posted it, and thankful for my friends that have enough confidence in what we do here at Bot Radio Network and enjoy the program to share that link. So the first response I got was from Pastor Alfred Ivery of Christ Centered Church. He joins us today. So good to see you. You just walked in the door. This is kind of a quick thing because you are a bivocational pastor and just got off work.
That's right, I did.
And where do you work?
I work at Nike.
Do you put the shoelace in the shoes? Do you put the pads inside? What do you do at Nike?
No, I sit behind the decks all day long just looking at the screen, man. I tell you, I'm an inventory specialist there over the whole department as far as parts and everything. When they create a warehouse, they have to order all the parts, the conveyor belts and all those things. So I'm over making sure all those things are there and replenished and things of that nature.
So you keep it running.
I keep it running.
So that people that wear Nike shoes can keep it running.
There you go. There you go. I like that.
That's the way it goes. How long have you been working for Nike?
Started at Nike in April of last year.
And where's home for you? Where did you grow up?
Memphis, Tennessee is home. Been here all my life. Right there in South Memphis. In my early years, moved to East Memphis after that. But yeah, Memphis, homebred.
Where did you go to school?
Went to Mitchell High. The Tigers.
The Tigers.
Black and gold.
Were you involved in sports?
Well, yeah, I ran track. 80-yard dash, the 100-yard, and the mile. And the relay.
The relay?
Yes.
When you pass that baton.
Pass that baton.
That's got a great spiritual application, doesn't it?
Oh, you know it does. You know it does. This we all got to do. We got to pass the baton to the next generation and show them how to win folk for Christ. Preach the gospel, pass the baton.
Well, Alfred, when did your journey with Christ begin?
Oh, well, I started as a teenager. I was brought up in church. My parents were both Christians. However, they did divorce, and so came from a single family home. They divorced when I was about 5 years old. But both of them returned to the Lord afterwards, but maintained the divorce. So my mother, she brought me up in Christ and went to church all the time. And about around the age of 12 years old, I gave my life to Christ. I've been serving Him. And you want the whole story? Because, there was...
Hey, I want the whole story. I want the truth and nothing but the truth.
Hey, well, the truth is this, and nothing but the truth. I gave my life to Christ at an early age, and I really gave it to Him as a young man of 12 years of age and was living for Him all I knew how. Well, as I got into my teenage years, I started to discover females. For whatever reason, I allowed my flesh to overcome my love for God, and I backslid. I had a child out of wedlock, married the young lady. I would tell anybody not to marry unless it's for love. Got to be for the right reasons. I understand that children are very important, but even in that, you want to make sure that love is the main ingredient for why you are married, because if you don't, then you're going to end up making a bad thing worse. So I married her doing what I thought was the morally right thing, and it was a morally right thing to do, other than not having the love there should be. But because of that, I just convinced myself, look, I'm doing the right thing, I'll fall in love, and everything's going to be all right. So I gave my life back to God at that point. We was married for about 7 years, and during the marriage, it was a very terrible marriage. It was very rocky. Ended up cheating going on, and my heart was broken, and I was devastated, and I backslid again due to that, and really just got buck wild after that. So I was in my late 20s by that point. Just went crazy into the world and started singing in clubs. I've been singing all my life, but I started singing in clubs. One in particular was Memphis Sounds downtown, right across the street from the Peabody Hotel. Every Sunday night, on the Lord's Day at that. Every Sunday night, singing at the clubs, man, and having all the women, screaming your name and all that stuff, and I just really got caught up in that lifestyle. But all the while, my mind and my spirit, knew that I was doing wrong, and I had that longing and that calling to come back to God. I can hear Him, just tugging me back. was satisfied with doing what I was doing. And God just decided to I'm going to slow walk this guy down. So I would begin to get in trouble with the law. Now, you would think that, oh, man, maybe drugs, alcohol, whatever. No, nothing like that. God will use anything. And for me, he used my driver's license. And so he used my driver's license. My license got suspended for a failure of paying a ticket. I was not responsible enough of a young man at that time to give that due diligence as far as paying my tickets. And so I wouldn't pay the tickets, and my license got suspended and I get stopped, issue me a citation, I get stopped again and issue me a citation. Well, after so many times, you get labeled as a habitual motor offender, which in the state of Tennessee at that time is a Class E felony. God was working this thing. And so I just went on like that and got labeled as a habitual motor offender. I'm skipping a whole lot of stuff, which is mandated as a 2-year jail sentence. And so there I was locked up in jail, and I was dressed all out in the blues, they have, my hair was all nappy and everything. I was smelling mighty bad. There I was in the cell about to go before the judge to receive my due reward. But in the cell that I was in, the holding cell, there was another young man that was in there who was accused of the same crime that I was accused of, habitual motor offender. In his case, he only had one charge against him. In my case, I had 4 charges against me, 2 upstairs and 2 downstairs. And those who understand the court system, they understand what I mean by 2 upstairs and 2 downstairs. But he only had one charge. And he went before the judge. By the way, this judge was named, well, I'm not going to say his name, but his nickname was called the hanging judge, because if you did the crime, you did the time. And so I talked to this young man while I was down there, and he was telling me, yeah, I got me a lawyer. I paid him $10,000. And I'm saying, oh, my goodness, I have a public defender. And she, by the way, that was her last day on the job. And so she was not too much interested in my case, and I could tell, and she let me know that in no uncertain terms. And so I'm feeling mighty bad because I'm saying, oh, man, I just got a public defender. He got a $10,000 lawyer. Oh, my goodness. So they called him out to the judge. I was back there by myself, and God just began to speak to me and said, look, you need to give me your life. Give me your life. If you give me your life, I can change your life. I can change it. And so he was just going over in my spirit and my mind just over and over again. I could just hear him talking to me, and I just wouldn't really accept anything. I was just going, oh, whatever that means. And so my public defender, she came back into the jail, and she said, well, Mr. Ivery, I just want you to know that the young man who just went up, they gave him 2 years. So I don't want you to be surprised about anything, And so she just walked back out. And at that time, I said, and my heart just began to soften at that point. God knows how to put you in a place where you have to come to your senses, And so I began to just say, oh, God wasn't calling on me at that point. I started calling on him. You hear about a lot of jailhouse confessions. This was not a jailhouse confession, because the thing that happened was that after she left out the room, my mind just began to go back to my early childhood and how I accepted Christ at that point, and how the relationship I had with him was so wonderful and so dear to me. I used to go into my bathroom. We had a bathroom upstairs and downstairs, and I'd go down to the bathroom all by myself around 3 o'clock in the morning, and I have my little Bible, and I have a little glass of oil, and I anoint my head, and I squat down at the throne there, and I pray and sing praises to God and just read my Bible. It was just a wonderful spirit that come in that bathroom, and I'm just 12, 13, 14 years of age, and it's just a beautiful thing. And so all those memories began to come back to me, and the relationship I had with him began to well back into me. My heart just began to melt, and I just looked towards God, and I just said, God, I'm so sorry, please forgive me. And it was not because of the fear of going to jail at this point. At this point, it was like, I just had a switch of saying, man, I'm so unworthy. I did so bad. Look what happened to me. And so it was like that, and I just began to cry, and God spoke through all of that misery that I had. It was a still, small voice. It was very, very clear, and he said these words, and this is honest God truth. He said, if you give me your life, I will set you free. I said, what? If you give me your life, I will set you free. I said, Lord. And when he said that, it was like my heart just burst open, and I just began to cry. And I just began to realize how much he loves me. And I told God, and this is the honest to God truth, I told him when he said that to me, I said, God, I thank you so much. I said, but I want you to know this, that if you do not set me free, I will still give my life to you, even if I have to do it in jail. I mean it with all my heart. And when I said that, like the Spirit of the Lord just came all down from the top of my head all down to the soles of my feet, it was like a release, and like waves of joy that came all over my body. And I just began to praise God and honor him and worship him right there in that jail cell. I don't know how loud I got. But after that, my public defender called me, the jailer said, they're ready for you, Mr. Ivery. Come out and let's go to the judge.
What I'd like to do, Alfred, before you give us the verdict, before we hear what the judge said, we're going to have to say goodbye on this edition of our program. We've set the stage, I think, quite adequately to leave our listeners with a cliffhanger.
Okay.
And so we're going to pick it up back next week and let you share the verdict of the judge and the ongoing ministry that takes place now as you pastor Christ-Centered Church. And the church is located where?
It's on the corner of Cooper and Walker, 1020 Cooper.
Kind of in the Midtown area, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
In the heart of Midtown.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. It's an old building called the Cooper Walker Place, and I rent there. I'm a new pastor, just me and my wife and my family, so we are very new. We are looking for God to do a great thing there.
When do you have service times?
Well, right now we're having services on Sunday evenings, and that's sporadically at this point. So, you just keep track with me on Facebook, and we'll let you know.
And what's your Facebook handle?
It's, I don't...
Well, just go to Alfred Ivery, I guess.
Yeah, just go to Alfred Ivery.
In Memphis.
In Memphis. You can Google my name. If you Google my name, I guarantee you'll find everything out about me.
Is there a phone number if somebody wanted to call you? They could do that.
Most definitely. It's 901-267-9758.
9758.
That's correct.
That's the number. Well, we want to come back and learn more about your family, about this new church work going on in the heart of Midtown, and about what the judge verdict was and what took place. We don't want to give it away yet.
No.
That's why we're going to come back on the next broadcast and share the story. Today we've been visiting with Alfred Ivery, pastor of Christ-Centered Church. It's been our pleasure, Alfred, to have you here on this first week. I'm excited about having you back next week. Can you join us?
Oh, most definitely.
All right, we're going to pick it up next time. Friends, that's all the time we have on this week's Pastors Forum. Thanks for stopping by. I'm Byron Tyler. Hey, don't miss the cliffhanger for next week. We'll share the story completely on our program. We'll talk to you then. Bye-bye.